My cat's over there licking her toes. If anybody would like to see that, let me know. Are you crazy? I know. Hello, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be reviewing Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. Let's jump right into it. So there are two really important characters in this book. The first one is Sam, who is a werewolf, and the other character is Grace, who is not a werewolf. Grace gets attacked by wolves when she's really young. Little does she know they're werewolves. She gets bitten, but she never changes into a werewolf. Sam, while she's getting attacked, notices and saves her life. And she would, from that moment on, recognize his eyes forever. So he has these yellow wolfish eyes, and they're the same when he's human. So for years, Sam watches her in wolf form, and she loves it. She sees him all the time. They have this instinctual relationship, connection type of thing, but they've never met as humans. In the story, Grace has a less than ideal home life. Her parents are absent, and they don't really seem to care what she's up to, and her friends not the best either. They're selfish and they leave her alone, and they don't really listen to her when she tries to tell them things. So that's leaving her with this unhealthy obsession with her wolf, which is Sam. So one day, a teenager goes missing and dies, and the people in the town are really, really angry at the wolves, so they start to hunt them. Now Grace is really stressed out because she doesn't want them to kill her wolf. So she goes out into the woods and she tells them to stop, and that there's somebody in the woods, so they have to stop. And this isn't true, but she wants to save Sam. So then she sees someone that got shot on the ground, and it turns out to be Sam. So they bring him to the hospital where they stitch him up, and then he heals really fast. And obviously this wouldn't be normal for a real human, but wolves heal extra fast. So they sneak out of the hospital because he, one, doesn't have insurance, and two, it's suspicious that how he healed. So they go to Grace's house because her parents don't really care. They're oblivious. They don't really check up on her. So at this point, we're learning that the temperature has an influence on how the werewolves turn into wolves, and they have to keep him warm or he's going to change back into a wolf, which they're trying to avoid because they want to be in a relationship. So he's worried that it's his last year as a human before he permanently shifts into a wolf. So will he be able to find a way to avoid this? Will they fall in love? You'll have to read it to find out. So I would say that this book wasn't my favorite read, and I'm not dying to read the next one. I think, though, that the series does have some potential. It's just not the strongest first book in a series that I've read and seen and whatever. That being said, here's why. One thing that I didn't really enjoy about the book is that a lot of the stuff going on inside of the character's head is very anxious. It's anxious chatter. There's not a ton of plot. It's just kind of them being stressed the whole time, to the point where Sam even says something like he loves that Grace doesn't really ask him questions and is mostly silent. When Sam and Grace do get to talking, it's superficial most of the time, and even sometimes a little bit cringy. The author misses really good opportunities for the two characters to grow and emotionally connect, and kind of keeps their relationship at surface level. As the reader, you know everything because you get to see what's going on inside of their minds, but they don't actually know each other at all because they almost never talk about anything serious. I know this is meant to signify that they have wolf instincts and that they don't need words to connect to one another, but at the same time, if that's what she's going for, I think it could have been executed better. Another problem is that this book isn't quite sure if it wants to be YA or adult. It seems like it's made for teenagers 90% of the time, the dialogue, the way that they're together. But then there's sections that are just like wildly too inappropriate to be for teenagers. So I think that there's an aspect of not quite knowing which scene the book belongs to, and I think that maybe there should be a choice made there. I do think also that the book was a little bit boring. Most of the book, I'd say maybe like 200 pages or so, were just following Sam and Grace around while they're falling in love. But really, the plot barely moves at all the whole time, and I found myself kind of thinking, when is something going to happen? Plus, for a werewolf book, there wasn't much werewolfing. I find that you can almost take the whole part about it being about werewolves out of the book, and you'd still have a completely intact story. So it's a little bit problematic to me. On the positive side, I do think that the ending was very good. It picked up really well in the last 50 pages. I found myself immersed in the story, and near the end, I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen. In the beginning of the book, I had a feeling it was going to be predictable, and I was pleasantly surprised about how the author chose to finish the book. I enjoyed the ominous vibes and the fact that the chapters were short. I do think that when a book has shorter chapters, it's easier to get through and keeps me captivated for longer. It's also a multiple POV. You get to see what's going on inside of Grace's mind as well as Sam's, which I'm a huge fan of when it comes to fantasy. I think it really shakes up the chapters and it makes it more interesting for longer. So overall, I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't say that I'd necessarily recommend it, but it wasn't terrible either. I found that there were sections that were lackluster, but there was sections that I was entertained, and the end was good enough to somewhat redeem it for me, and I think that I'm going to see better in the next few books in the series. I love Maggie Stiefvater. I've read her book series, The Raven Boys, and I really enjoyed it. So I already know that I like the author, so I'm hoping that the series picks up for me. For those of you who, like me, really like to try and find books at thrift stores, value villages, and things like that, which is where I found my copy, there are a few different versions of the cover of this book. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what the covers look like, so that if you see it at a thrift store and you're interested in getting it, you know what you're looking for. So first, there's the cover that I have. It's the blue cover with a girl and a wolf on the cover. Then there's this one, which is more simple. It's white and it has a blue tree on it. And lastly, there's this black version cover with blue on it as well. So that gives you an idea of the covers that are out there for this book. So if ever you see it and you're interested in buying it, then now you know what you're looking for. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed my video and that you have a bit better insight on the book. And I hope to see you next time.